new Board of Directors for National Airports Corporation. Collective efforts needed in tourism. Petty crimes increase in Medak.
This is NBC Papua National News.
Good evening, I'm Jerry Tave. The National Executive Council has appointed new Board of Directors for the National Airports Corporation, which will immediately take over from the previous board. Ruben Ayla will be leading the board as the chairman. The new NAC board consists of professionals from different sectors of government and the private sector. Leading up to the APEC summit in 2018, Civil Aviation Minister Stephen Davis said the government plans to build strong structures with such professionals to take the entity to the next level. Jehabakia reports.
The National Airports Corporation has been without a permanent board for a full term for some time now, due to the fact that former boards have tended to be caught up in legal battles as highlighted by the minister. This being the case, NEC has decided to appoint a new board made up of experienced individuals from different public and private sectors. Amongst other members of the board is Secretary Roy Mumu, Finance Secretary Dari Vele and Wako Napasu from the tourism sector.
The government is desirous of ensuring that we leave organizations that are strong, organizations that are efficient, organizations that are forward-thinking and forward-looking and building capacity. And that only happens if we have strong professional boards and also good management.
The minister has highlighted to the board members the expectations of the government, and the expectations for them is high. Amongst these is the management and implementation of the CADIP program, maintaining of aviation safety standards and preparation for the APEC Leaders Summit in 2018.
In my statement of expectations to this board, I did highlight what government expects from the civil aviation sector. I also focus on what is the expectation of government on the Airports Corporation. And I did highlight to the board in my statement of expectations the reason for the underlying reason for the Civil Aviation Act, the policy that drives us, which is to connect the entire nation for aviation sector to become relevant and to enhance government's push to develop our country.
The new acting managing director Richard Yapo and board chairman Ruben Ayla say the first agenda of business will be to get the major airports ready for the summit.
Ensure that there is proper corporate governance in place, and one of the major things that we actually want to start really focusing on is getting the airport ready for APEC 2018. So that's critical.
The minister pointed out the fact that, similar to all government departments, NAC is feeling the impacts of the current economic crisis. But they are trying their best to maintain programs and projects within the 22 airports in the country. Jaheb Akia, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Meanwhile, Civil Aviation Minister Stephen Davis says apart from the Port Moresby and Mount Hagen airports, all other airports in the country are a liability to the National Airports Corporation. From an income-generating point of view, these other airports around the country do not make money and rely on income generated by Port Moresby and Mount Hagen. The minister said avenues are being looked at to see how the other airports can be able to generate income to become self-sustaining. Mr. Davis said the limited amount of funding allocated by the government is sometimes stretched to the limit, and new strategies have to be put in place to find solutions for this problem. One way he suggested was for the board to ensure the welfare of the NSA staff is well taken care of to ensure maximum output from employees.
There is no direct government funding in terms of supporting all those airports. The policy is that NAC would generate its own resources to undertake that obligation. And my point is that Port Moresby and Mount Hagen aside, which they are able to generate sufficient revenues to carry out their operational costs and everything else that is required. the rest of the other airports are unable to be regarded as commercially viable. So that's why this current government is working to see how we can support NAC to make sure that those airstrips or those regional airports sustained. I referred in my statement to the community service obligation policy, which government has passed, and we are now asking this current board and management to look at and to analyze and see how we can support them.
The tourism industry in PNG has been described as an egg yet to be hatched. For some, this sector is insignificant and incomparable with the predominant sectors that the economy of this country is leaning on. It is hoped that at the National Tourism Conference and the PNG Tourism Industry Exposition, service providers and tourism vendors will learn from international experts to improve the sector. Tourism Promotions Authority CEO Jerry Agus says the tourism industry itself revolves around the people, and this platform provided will be a learning experience for many. Kevin Dayonga reports.
CEO of Tourism Promotion Authority Jerry Agus maintained that the success of tourism does not revolve around PNG Tourism Promotion Authority. He says a collective effort is needed to drive the industry forward.
Tourism cuts across all sectors, as we all know, whether it be transport sector, law and order, infrastructure, all other government agencies and private sector plays a role in terms of developing tourism.
He said majority of our people are still blindfolded on the ability of tourism as an economic booster to construct a strong pillar for economic growth. The focus has been laid on large-scale resource projects and extractive industries like mining and petroleum that generates a huge amount of government revenues. This unfavorable scenario has been experienced by the country, with tourism as an unpopular sector of economy.
TPA, we can do our part to promote tourism, but if the transport infrastructure is not there, if the airline connectivity is not there, if the customs and immigrations clearances are not given in time, if the visa issuing processes are not streamlined, then it adds up to being an impediment of us developing tourism in this country.
He further added that such platforms will open avenues for ordinary Papua New Guineans to improve their lives and the communities they live in. During the expo, the industry members will meet with international travel agents, wholesalers and the PNG destination marketing representatives, who will have the opportunity to mingle with the industry members and see what they got to offer. Kevin Dayonga, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has extended the country's condolences to the family of the late Sir Michael Curtin. Sir Michael Curtin passed away in hospital in Townsville over the weekend. Mr. O'Neill expressed the country's sympathy to Lady Jennifer and the family at this difficult time and thanked Sir Michael on behalf of the country for his commitment to the development of PNG. According to Mr. O'Neill, Sir Michael has worked and contributed a lot in the construction sector in Papua New Guinea when other Australian companies withdrew from PNG in the 1980s. He said Sir Michael, through Curtin Brothers, has also been a major participant in the Townsville and North Queensland construction sector and an important business link between North Queensland and Papua New Guinea. He said he deserves thanks and credit for investing in Papua New Guinea construction sector and is likely to be best remembered for the significant contribution Curtin Brothers made to the construction phase of the nation's first LNG project and even more recently, the Motukea Island Port project. The Women in Business Digicel Expo will start on Thursday as a lead-up activity into the 41st Independence Anniversary in Port Moresby. Digicel has come on board again this year as the main sponsor to support this cause. This will become an avenue for women to showcase their products to the public and give them a chance to do small business.
The Women in Business Digicel Expo program will continue for 10 days. Digicel's retail director Lorna McPherson says Digicel is proud to sponsor this event again because of the last successful expo that made a difference in women. This year, Digicel has sponsored 50,000 kina and another 50,000 kina in kind through sending text messages about the event to a total of 300,000 target audience in Port Moresby.
For the Women in Business Expo for 100,000 kina, 50,000 kina in cash and 50,000 kina in kind.
She says Digicel is proud to continue this relationship to empower women to venture into business. Women in Business founding director Janet Sape acknowledged Digicel for the support.
Association with them has helped women with the growth of their businesses because it's made it so much very easier for them to communicate with each other, especially women living in the rural areas. We've been able to communicate with them and talk to them. And so we hope to continue this relationship with Digicel. And with this expo, we're very excited because there's a lot of interest being shown. And this will be a permanent place after the 10 days expo.
Esther Berlinwani, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Petty crime has increased dramatically in Mutang province recently. Mutang Provincial Administrator Daniel Aloy said 3 brutal killings have happened in the province this year. He said law and order in the province has gone out of hand due to the influx of people every day. Jacqueline Yala with this report.
People are migrating into Medang province every day. This is due to booming in business opportunities in the province, thus resulting in the increase of crime rate in the province.
There was Transgogol killings, and there was the recent killing of 2 security guards, and then there was, I think, the harassment at Simbai that has actually brought, concerns on the law and order situations here, and then of course the bank, or if not the hold-ups of businessmen and women who were doing the banking.
Medang was once a tourist destination, but now fear is dominating the streets. People cannot move around freely. Despite the tireless job of the police personnel, law and order issue remains a big problem.
I would be responsible for that, especially for the law enforcers, ability to respond to that. But then there is one line that I'd like to reinforce here, and that is a line that has been said by our political leaders and those of us in any leadership roles, and that is that the communities take responsibilities for those criminal activities as well.
However, the provincial government is playing a role in assisting police with resources to curb these issues.
I am comfortable to say that the provincial government's support to the police department has been, I think, has been reasonable, perhaps more than reasonable. I think you had provincial governments and members of parliament supporting them with the capacity, to ensure that they're mobile and to ensure that they immediately attend to those, crime scenes.
It has been reported most of these crimes are preventable. But this can be done only through the collaborative effort of the law enforcing agencies and the wider communities. Jacqueline Yala, NBC National News, Medang.
The IUCN World Conservation Congress has set the global conservation agenda for the next 4 years. It defined a roadmap for the implementation of the historic agreements adopted in 2015. The Congress, held in Honolulu, Hawaii, closed with the presentation of the Hawaii Commitments. This document, titled Navigating Island Earth, was shaped by IUCN Congress debates and deliberations and opened for comments to some 10,000 participants from 192 countries. It outlines opportunities to address some of the greatest challenges facing nature conservation and calls for a commitment to implement them. The document summarizes the collective commitment by all who attended the Congress to undertake profound transformations in how human societies live on Earth, with particular attention to making patterns of production and consumption more sustainable. Kevin Dayonga reports.
Inga Anderson, IUCN's Director General, says this IUCN Congress has come at the right time in our planet's history as we find ourselves at a crossroad, facing challenges of unprecedented magnitude.
Great governments have shown multilateralism can work. It can only work if we, the people, the organizations, the activists, the indigenous people, and all of us step up. That's why we call it Planet at the Crossroads.
With more than 10,000 registered participants, the IUCN Congress, the event brought together leaders from government, civil society, indigenous, faith and spiritual communities, the private sector and academia, to collectively decide on actions to address the most pressing conservation and sustainable development challenges. Key decisions include closure of domestic markets for elephant ivory, the urgency of protecting the high seas, the need to protect the primary forests, no-go areas for the industrial activities within protected areas, and an official IUCN policy on biodiversity offsets. IUCN's President Zhang Xingsheng says IUCN's more than 1,300 members are behind these decisions. It gives them the way to drive the real change needed to address some of the biggest challenges our planet faces today.
It will be, as I believe, for us to join hands globally that will turn this world from a tipping point to turning point. And we are already doing it right now from day one.
The IUCN Congress has put new issues on the global sustainability agenda, including the importance of linking spirituality, religion and culture and conservation, and the need to implement nature-based solutions. The next IUCN World Conservation Congress will take place in 2020. Kevin Dayonga, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
We now look at the weather preview with James.
Thanks, Jerry. The weather in brief: wet weather conditions expected around the country this time, with showers and rain associated with thunderstorms. Join me later in the bulletin for all your weather details. Back to you, Jerry.
Thank you, James. Coming up after the break, more than 30 trainees undergo demographic health survey training in Madang, and tourism recognized as fastest industry manipulating global economy. Stay with us on NBC National News.